Have you ever caught yourself using a catchphrase you just heard from a friend? Or, I don't know, found yourself yawning just because you saw someone else do it? Well, today we're going to dive into the invisible force behind all that, what's called the copycat effect. It's this incredibly powerful idea that honestly shapes our habits, our fears, and even our successes, all without us really even noticing.
I mean, really think about it for a second. That little phrase you picked up at work, that new recipe you just had to try after seeing it online, where does that stuff come from? Is it just random? Or is there something way, way deeper going on inside our brains?
And that's the heart of it, right there. It turns out this isn't just some quirky thing we do. It's one of the most fundamental ways we humans learn, adapt, and connect with each other. We are all basically hardwired to be copycats.
So, to really get a handle on why we're such good imitators, we have to look back at this huge debate that was going on in psychology for decades. For the longest time, the experts just couldn't agree on what was actually happening inside our heads when we learned something new.
Okay, so you had two main camps. On one side, there was behaviorism. These guys saw the mind as a total black box. They thought all that mattered was the input and the output. You know, like a dog gets a treat for doing a trick. Simple. But on the other side, the cognitive approach was saying, whoa, hold on. What happens inside that box are thoughts, are memories. That's the most important part. And for years, these two ideas were just totally separate, leaving this giant gap in how we understood learning.
And this is where a psychologist named Albert Bandura comes in with this just brilliant solution. His social learning theory built a bridge between the two. He said, look, of course we learn from rewards and punishments in our environment, but we're not just passive robots. We are actively watching, thinking, and processing what's going on around us. And here's the kicker. Learning by watching somebody isn't automatic. Bandura said there are actually 4 crucial mental steps that have to happen. It's a whole process that goes on inside your head between seeing something and actually doing it.
First up is attention, right? You have to actually notice the behavior in the first place. Think about how a wild new dance trend just grabs you on social media. Second, there's retention. You got to remember the moves, basically create a little mental blueprint of them. Third is reproduction. You actually have to be able to do the dance, which, let's be honest, is sometimes easier said than done. And finally, and this is the big one, motivation. You need a reason to even try it. Maybe you see your friends having a blast doing it and you want to join in. If you don't have all 4 of those steps, then what you saw is just, well, it's just something you saw. It's not learning. So how in the world did Bandura prove all of this? Well, get ready, because he designed one of the most famous and, yeah, pretty controversial experiments in the history of psychology. The year is 1961. Bandura and his team bring in 72 little kids, all between 3 and 6 years old, from the local Stanford University nursery school. And these kids, they were about to show the entire world just how incredibly powerful observation really is. The setup was just so simple but so clever. They split the kids into groups. One group watched an adult walk into a room and just go to town on this inflatable doll named Bobo. We're talking hitting it with a mallet, kicking it, yelling at it. A second group saw an adult play quietly with some other toys and totally ignore the Bobo doll. And the third group, the control group, they didn't see any adult model at all.
Okay, so after watching the adult, each kid was taken one by one into another room full of cool toys, and, you guessed it, a Bobo doll was sitting right there. The researchers were hiding behind a one-way mirror, just waiting to see what would happen.
And what they saw, well, it changed everything we thought we knew about how kids learn. The results weren't just clear, they were absolutely stunning.
The children who saw the adult attack the doll did the exact same things. I mean, they didn't just get aggressive in a general way. They literally copied the specific actions. They picked up the mallet and hit the doll. They kicked it. They even repeated the same hostile phrases the adult had used. It was like they'd learned a complete script for aggression just from watching for a few minutes.
So, okay, fascinating experiment. But what does a study from the 1960s with an inflatable doll have to do with us, right here, right now? Well, it turns out everything. This theory explains so much about how we learn, how we act, and who we become every single day.
So who do we actually choose to copy? Bandura's work shows we don't just copy anyone. We're drawn to models who we feel are similar to us in some way. We also copy people we look up to, people with high status or who seem like experts. And, maybe most importantly, we copy people who we see getting rewarded for what they do.
And this leads to this really key concept called vicarious reinforcement. It sounds a little academic, but the idea is simple. It's what drives our motivation. We don't have to get the reward ourselves. Just seeing someone else get praise, or become successful, or even just look happy after doing something, that's often enough to make us want to do it too.
And once you understand this, you start seeing it absolutely everywhere. It explains why violence in the media can be so influential, for sure. But it also explains how we learn all the good stuff. We learn how to be kind, how to work hard, how to be a good friend, all from watching the people and even the characters around us.
And maybe the most powerful thing that comes out of all this is something called self-efficacy. That's just the belief in ourselves. That feeling of, yeah, I can do that. When we see someone who's kind of like us succeed at something hard, it plants this little seed of belief in our own minds. And that belief, that's often the very first step toward actually making it happen.
So the takeaway here is pretty profound. We are constantly and often unconsciously downloading these scripts for how to act from the world around us. But remember, this is a two-way street. Whether we realize it or not, we are all models for someone else. Which leaves us with one last pretty important question. If we're all learning by watching, who is watching and learning from you?